Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about a bunch of stuff. That's right, I got a bunch of random stuff I want to talk about, all sorts of things. So yeah, let's get to it. First off, let's go ahead and talk about the Throne of Eldraine. So this is the new set coming out real soon. I think early October, October 4th, if I'm not wrong. And this is the fairy tale theme set, sort of like Lorwyn, but Lorwyn I think had more of Celtic sort of theme. This one's more Arthurian, but there is a lot of crossover. And also, like, in case you didn't know, the Celts were actually originally from mainland Europe and then crossed over into um, Britain and then Ireland and stuff, like back in the day, like, I don't know, 2,000 years ago or something. Long time ago, or not 2,000, like 2000 BC. They were there for a long, long time. I think originally they were from the Iberian Peninsula, from my last information that I read. So yeah, and I think Caesar just killed them all. So yeah, they're mostly just remembered to be in like Ireland and Britain and stuff like that. But anyways, back to the magic stuff. So it's based off the sort of Arthurian fairy tales, and then Brothers Grimm, that kind of stuff, and just Disney fairy tales and all that other stuff. Like Beauty and the Beast. There's a Beast card, and he makes a 1/1 princess, and she of course is like there for him, and oh, he can attack and block, and oh my gosh. So yeah, there's a lot of cards that are great, really really good flavor, tons of flavor. There's dwarves. Let me tell you, there's like 3 or 4 dwarf cards, I think, maybe more. I can't remember. There's a dwarven mine, and I don't know if it's flavorful or not, but I think it's flavorful. You can have dwarven blast miner or dwarven miner blow up dwarven mine because dwarven mine's a non-basic land, and it reminds me of Lord of the Rings. They dug too far, too deep, that kind of thing. Which is sweet. I love dwarves. One of the red king guy is a dwarf, the Thane. That guy is sweet. He's like a furnace of wrath. That guy is sweet. And then there's like the 7 dwarf card. Snow White 7 dwarves, that kind of thing. You can play seven of them in your deck to get +1/+1 for each other dwarf, which is awesome. I mean, all of these good dwarf cards. The first really good dwarf cards we've had since like Onslaught Block, which had Dwarven Blast Miner, but realistically since Odyssey, which was sweet. I mean, yes, they had dwarves in Kaladesh. Yes, they had dwarves in Lorwyn, but these weren't dwarves that were like super badass dwarves that you would expect to see in most fantasy stuff. They were like different magical dwarves, different magic dwarves, I guess. Magic's take on these dwarves on whatever particular plane, on Kaladesh or Lorwyn / Shadow War, whatever. Not interesting. I want old school dwarves. I want them digging in mines. I want them being badass and having beards. That's all I want. I want Furnace of Wrath stapled to my legendary guy. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. And minor story spoilers from here. We've got all sorts of cool new guys. We got Oko, the Planeswalker guy, another 3-mana walker. Like makes food tokens or turns things into elk. All sorts of cool stuff. So that's pretty sweet. Oko seems pretty good, although I don't know how to evaluate all the food stuff in the set, much less on this 3-mana walker. So I'm like, I guess this seems good, but I'm not 100% sure. Oko seems cool. I like all the food mechanic. There's a lot of weird stuff you can do with food. A lot of stuff, a lot of synergy. I mean, obviously, just sacking it for life gain is good sometimes if you're like a control deck or something. Stuff like Gilded Goose, which is sacking for mana or whatever. So that's pretty cool. There's all sorts of cool things to do with that. Then there's the adventures. All the adventures are sweet. You got Murderous Rider. That's like the hero's downfall, but you lose 2 life. And then it's a 3-mana 2/3. And then Bone Crusher Giant. Bone Crusher Giant, the 3-mana 4/3. And the adventure is like red and colorless. Instant, just deal 2 to a target. So that's pretty sweet. So that card's like really, really strong. So a lot of the better adventurers like both sides of the card are good. Sometimes they let you curve out in the case of like Bone Crusher Giant or Brazen Borrower, I believe. That's the pseudo Vendilion Click that bounces a thing, and then you can cast it for flash, and it's a 3/1 flyer. That's pretty cool. Um, yeah. There's a lot of really good cards. All the adventure cards are pretty sweet. The aforementioned was, I believe, it's called Noble Beast. You pay green to make a 1/1 human token, so it can turn itself on. Uh, Phrasing, I guess. And then you can play it on turn 3, and your 5/5 can attack and block and all that good stuff. So yeah, really sweet stuff, really cool stuff. I love the flavor. All of the castle lands are really cool. I like all those guys. Um, I don't know which one's the best. I really like Castle Ardenvale because that's the one that's the Keldoran outpost, but it doesn't make you sack a land, so that's pretty strong. I mean, it's a lot slower, but pretty sweet card nonetheless. Really sweet card nonetheless. Comparable to Keldoran outpost. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good words. You can fetch the damn thing too, because it's a fucking plains. How cool is that, man? Whew, I love it. So yeah, lots of cool adventures, lots of cool lands. I mean, all the knights and stuff, all the knight dot deck looks pretty good. You got the triple colored land, the red, white, black one that lets you like cast knights and equipment and shit. So that's pretty sweet. Lot of cool stuff there. So the Night Tribal looks really strong. I think the set in general, after looking at it more and thinking about it more, seems like probably the perfect power level for Standard, and a couple cards for older formats, other formats. Something like Fabled Passage, for example, great in Standard, but also good in like something like Commander. Really good because turn 4 you'll be able to get your land out and it'll come to play untapped. You don't have to lose any life. That's pretty sweet. I mean, you can't lose. You can't lose. Yeah, yeah. So I'm definitely pretty excited about the set. I mean, I don't think there's anything bad I can say about it. I think the more I think about it, the more I like it. Pretty nice. Got fairies. I love them all over the place, and every color except red. Unfortunate. I wish there was a red fairy at least, but that's okay. Maybe next time, right? Maybe next time. So, oh yeah, it's a story. Story, guy. I totally got off topic talking about Oko and the other planeswalkers and then food and then blah. Um, yeah. So Oko basically, Garruk's tracking him to Eldraine, and then Oko basically mind controls him, and then makes him his pet. Literally calls him dog, and then they have to like go and do stuff where Oko's just like, I hate power and authority and hierarchy and I'm really edgy, had a bad experience. And so what he ends up doing is just basically sowing chaos and discord and stuff, doing a Loki thing. So that's pretty cool, kind of interesting. And then Will and Rowan Kenrith, this is before they spark. So they're doing their thing, and they come upon Oko and Grook, and then Oko mind wipes them so they forget because he just rings them for information. And then eventually all sorts of stuff happens. They encounter him again. They see Garruk and they're like, man, Garruk, you look like you are suffering, bro. And he's like, yeah, I am. Because, he's been cursed by Liliana's Chain Veil for like a decade on now. In regular game time, I don't know, a couple years or something maybe. Um, and then they take out the Hedron that Jace put in him to basically stop the curse, stop it from spreading, because they think the Hedron is causing the curse when it's literally the opposite. Oops a daisy, he flips out, goes nuts, he overcomes his mind control, but he's obviously, the curse is advancing very, very quickly, he's going nuts. Will's like, shit bro, I better save him because this is the right thing to do. And his sister's like, shit, dude, this dude's going nuts. We need to find our dad because he's going to be hunted because he got turned into a stag by Oko. The elves are going to kill him. He's like, shit, I better save this guy. So he jumps into a river to save Garruk, which Garruk drowns. And he's like, shit, I can't believe I didn't save him. But then this this cauldron of eternity comes up, which is hinted at in the story a bunch, which is basically like everyone tries to find it, but then they can't. And it deems him worthy, and it brings Garuk back to life, and literally gives him the suck. The cauldron gives him the suck, sucks out his curse, I guess for lack of a better word, and he's like, "Holy shit, I'm back, baby, I'm back." And he's like, "Wow, thank you, Will and Rowan Kenrith. I'm sorry for fucking shit up." Anyways, their dad as a stag dies, and then his mom brings them back with a magical sword, and then they find out that they were lied to by their parents because they were born by their dad, the king, the High King, and a witch. And they were killed but brought back with one of the other swords, the second sword that they used in the Mega Quest or whatever. And yeah, so his sister gets pretty triggered, and then he gets like upset too. And then since they both share a spark, they both planeswalk at the same time. It was kind of awesome. And Bruce like, shit, I didn't expect that. And his parents are like, shit, we're super worried. He's like, I'll try and find him, or something. So yeah, Grook's like, he's back to himself. He wants to kill Oko because he's an asshole. Wants to kill Ileana because she's an asshole and cursed him, obviously. He's like, but you know what? I'll just get him on my own time. The Kenrith twins save me, and he makes a vow to their parents, the king and the queen. I'll track him down. Don't worry about it. So that's cool. Kind of interesting. A little bit of a nice little change for his character to be a little bit more obviously he just wants to hang out in the wilds, but he definitely feels gratitude towards them. It's kind of cool. So that's kind of sweet. The book's pretty interesting. It's called Throne of Eldraine, Quest for the Wildering, I don't know, something like that. And it's a kind of a cool book. I like it. I'd say 6.5 out of 10. Written by Kate Elliott. I've never read any of her stuff previously, but she seems like a pretty good author. Did a pretty good job with everything, all things considered. I think all the characters are pretty interesting and likable, and she did a really good job of painting the whole scene of everything. I think that really stands out a lot. Like Eldraine really kind of comes to life. So that's really cool. I like that a lot. So good set and good story, which is nice. You really want that. Big fan. But let's move on to something else. Let's talk a little bit about the new commander decks. And I guess quickly, I didn't really want to spend too much time on these, but they were pretty good. So I'll drink to that. Yeah, pretty good commander decks. I liked them all. The only one I thought was a little underwhelming was the Madness EDH deck. And that's just like, I think it's just because the mechanic in general just doesn't really play very well in Commander. Because the thing is, like the original Madness deck, say from Torment Block, Odyssey Block, because the Madness cards came out specifically in Torment. The thing is, they're basically just undercosted versions of a regular spell. So Arrogant Worm, instead of being Dirkward Boars, it's Super Dirkward Boars, right? It's a 3-mana 4/4 flash trample. So, I mean, that's great and all, but the problem is you need a Madness outlet to make your Madness cards do a fucking thing. And second, like a 3-mana 4/4, no one gives a shit about. Like, okay, whatever. Like, it just gets caught up in any random wrath effect. It's not a scary card. Like, pretty much all of the Madness cards they printed, it's like, okay, these are cool, these are fine, but like, why am I like jumping through all these hoops for like slightly underpriced cards? And I think the best way I could put it is that the Madness decks typically tend to play like small ball kind of games, like in Constructed, where it's like, man, like I said, Arrogant Worm, sweet. Past your Rule Wall, this is really sweet. Man, like, look at all these undercosted cards, like Circular Logic. Wow, this is really strong. 1 mana hard counter. Um, but this stuff, like, in Commander, like, no one gives a shit about. It's like, sure, your spells are a little more efficient. Okay. Like, what else, though? Like, no one gives a shit. So, like, that theme just feels like a non-starter. I feel like that's, like, they tried, but, I mean, I don't even think they should have tried. They need to really, really push it. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like, who gives a shit? I feel like the red black deck, the Madness deck, was actually pretty good because it had like the Gerard commander is pretty sweet. I think that one also had Crick, the mono black commander, son of Yawgmoth or something. Dude that gives your spells like Phyrexian mana. That's pretty cool. He's pretty strong. There were some good cards, some interesting stuff, but overall I feel like the Madness theme was like an A plus minus super mega fail. Like, it's just not that good. You need, like, enablers for it, and most of the enablers aren't good, really, without the Madness cards, and vice versa. So it's like, okay, so who gives a shit? You're already playing, like, a really inconsistent deck, and your payoffs are, like, the ceiling is pretty low, so, like, no one cares. But the rest of the decks were cool. I like the red, green, white one with all the egg stuff. The egg Altla Panini. That chick is pretty sweet. The one that makes eggs and you can sack eggs to like polymorph stuff, basically that kind of thing. That's pretty cool. I thought all the decks were good. I thought the red, white, blue Spellslinger deck was good. Um, a lot of good stuff. A lot of great cards. I thought this was a pretty good. I feel like this is a pretty much a out and out upgrade over last year's. You don't have any of the lands matter dot deck where you don't really have lands matter themes. You just have stupid shit like a bunch of retards. Oh, fucking wizards! I swear to God. Anyways, most of those decks pretty good. Pretty good. Definitely worth buying. Definitely worth buying. And the last thing I want to talk about, I don't know like why I keep thinking about this, but it's just like in Modern Horizons, there was a cycle of the 5 force cards, right? That were basically based off the Alliance version of the pitch cards, all named after Force of Will, right? So, Force of Vigor, Force of Negation, and so on. But Force of Rage is the red version, which is absolute garbage. Like, this is out and out the worst one. No one's ever going to play it. You'd rather just play Ball Lightning instead of this piece of shit. At least Ball Lightning is like an actual elemental and it can do like sweet stuff, right? So, like for example, with the elemental decks. So yeah, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Not a big fan of Force of Rage. It's the worst one by far. I'm not exactly sure. Like, I mean, because the previous version of the red pitch spell was pyrokinesis, which this thing kicks fucking ass. Like, this kicks all the ass. Like, if there was ass, it kicks 4 of them. 4 asses have been kicked by pyrokinesis. It's amazing. And then Force of Rage is just so garbage, and like I can't stop thinking about how bad it is. Like, why did Wizards make this card so bad? Like, really? I mean, this is like a cycle of cards, modeled after one of the best cards, most powerful cards, most influential cards in the game. You think they'd like try pretty hard. So like blue one, obviously good. Green one, very very good. Probably even better than the blue one, I'd say. Black one, situationally good. White one, kind of a build around. You can make it good. Like for example, I've seen like people using Squadron Hawks or whatever, because the Squadron Hawks will help you recoup the lost card from pitching it, and then also multiple cheap flyers is good with the Force of Virtue, the White Force. So that's sweet. You could do something with it. I've seen it played. It's a reasonable card. It can be good, and I could see it really being good in a lot of different situations. For example, being good against Ren and 6 and Plague Engineer. That's kind of nice. The Force of Rage is just garbage. Why is it so bad? Why did they make this card that's a worse Ball Lightning? Like, it just gets cock blocked by random shit. Like, why? Like, why would they do this? It frustrates me. I'm not exactly sure what the point of that was, but Not a fan. Not a fan. I was trying to think of what it could be. I mean, what can red do? I don't think like obviously like a land destruction spell is a no go. I mean that'd be way too obscene. Like a free stone raid on turn one. I don't think that's gonna fly. That wouldn't work. A free act of treason would be really underwhelming. Maybe an act of treason for 2 creatures. That seems a little too good. Okay. Free burn spell, like I said, we already really did that with pyrokinesis, so I mean, whatever. That's probably not gonna get up to that level again. So that's probably a no-go. There's copying things. Now that might be interesting. The copying stuff might be really interesting. It'd be like a misdirection, obviously. You know, the masks pitch card, except it'd be instead of target changing, it would be copying. I think that would probably be a pretty good one now that I think about it. Yeah, like a fork, basically. That would be pretty cool. You can't really make like free mana. Like that wouldn't make a lot of sense, and that'd just be too absurd. Like a free like mana morphos kind of thing. Like oh, pitch a card and you add 2 red mana to your mana pool or something. I'm like, I don't see that working out. That wouldn't work. Um, Gosh, I mean, obviously free draw and discard probably is not a good plan either because these kind of things are just obscenely broken. I'm not really sure like what you really could do because a lot of red's mechanics are pretty shallow, like bad or just like too good, at least in the case of land destruction if they're priced too cheap. So I don't know. Force of Rage is really bad and it annoys me. It annoys me a lot that they brand a card this bad in a set that was specifically pushed to be good, and a cycle of cards that was specifically modeled after one of the most powerful cards in the game, one of the most format defining cards, and what do? They uh, they make it garbage. I mean, literally garbage. This is like they should have just put like ball lightning in its place or something. I mean, it's not good. Not a good card. So that's it. That's it, guys. Um, Overall, random stuff to talk about. A lot of things on my mind, thinking about magical stuff, but pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff so far. So hopefully, I'll try and get some sort of state of magical stuff for this year. Um, and that'll be pretty sweet. Probably coming out after a month and a half, or at least of Throne of Eldraine standard to see really where that falls. I mean, obviously it's going to make an impact. It's definitely a very good set, a lot of good cards, but we'll see. So that's it. Thanks for stopping by. Have a nice day.